Very few phones we've seen here at Mobile World Congress pack the same level of geek cred as this. This is the FX Tec Pro1. It has a Snapdragon 835 chipset, it has 6 gigabytes of RAM, it has a 6-inch Full HD Plus display, and yeah, I know what you're thinking. That doesn't sound great, but here's where the magic happens. Once you pick up the device, give it a quick slap, and there you go. We're working with a 5-row keyboard. This is very much a love letter to devices like the N900 and the Droids and all of the weird things HTC made there for a while. And it actually feels really, really nice to use. Let's take a closer look. Before we go any further, I feel like I have to say this is 100% not done yet. There are some decisions here that don't make a whole lot of sense and a whole lot of bugs, so don't judge these guys too harshly, because this very much does feel like a labor of love. These people grew up using QWERTY slider phones, they grew up using Blackberries, and that love of the speed and the accuracy of a physical keyboard hasn't left them, and they wanted to replicate that experience on a modern Android smartphone. Most importantly, the keys actually feel great. Like I said, this is a 5-row keyboard. It's actually staggered, so it actually approximates the way a typical PC keyboard might be laid out. This phone would be nothing if it weren't for its keyboard, and that's why I'm pleased to report it's actually really quite nice. There's what feels like the perfect amount of travel and click. That said, this is definitely not done yet. The spacebar seems to have a dead spot where if you come in from an angle, it doesn't feel super great. If you try to, I don't know, use a question mark, you just get 5 L's instead of a question mark. This is all very pre-production stuff, and it should be ironed up by the time this device launches in the summer, but it has made this device kind of difficult to get a feel for. That said, if all you care about is the ability to bash out messages, then this just might be the perfect phone for you, just going off of how perfectly balanced the keyboard feels when it actually works the way it's supposed to. Obviously, when you're working with the phone open, the screen is in landscape, and that presents some issues too. Most Android apps that we've tried work just fine here because they're designed to work that way, but others, like Instagram, for example, are meant purely to run in vertical mode. At this point, at least, the Pro1 just does not know what to do with them. The company has told us that it's working to optimize its support for the most popular vertical-only apps, so you should be able to run Instagram and a few others on a landscape display without wanting to pull your hair out. Beyond that, the landscape-first experience you'll get on the Pro1 actually feels pretty polished. Widgets have been refactored so they don't stretch across the entire page, so you actually get multiple on different home screens. And the Android Pie navigation cluster remains on the side of the device, which allows you to really quickly multitask. I would kind of prefer that they had strewn that along the bottom of the display, but apparently there was just not enough room to get all of that in there and still give you all the real estate that you need. The rest of the stuff here is pretty standard. We have a 12 megapixel camera on the back, a 5 megapixel front-facing camera, and honestly, just I don't really get tired of this. That said, listen to this thing. That's a pretty violent hinge. I'm actually kind of concerned that if things stay like this, something's gonna break. The company says that shouldn't be an issue and that it's been tested for up to 100,000 of these, but I feel like I could get through 100,000 of these pretty quickly, don't you? I don't agree with every decision the company has made. There is, for example, a fingerprint sensor that sits very low on the phone's right edge, and I don't know who this is for. If you're a child, like, cool, but I'm not gonna do that. That seems very strange. That said, I'm very excited about the potential of this device, and not just because I grew up using a Motorola Droid. I'd love to be able to, I don't know, map some of these keys for games, to get emulators running on this thing, and getting a full set of physical controls. That's what I've always wanted, and that's what I just might get with the Pro1. This is definitively an early product from a startup, but I do actually kind of trust these guys to get the job done. That's partially because of who's making it. One of the founders actually comes from Livermorium, the company that created and actually ultimately failed to sell a keyboard Moto mod. The keyboard itself was actually quite nice, but Motorola apparently wasn't the best partner to work with in that situation. He does know quite a bit about keyboards though, and he actually designed this one himself, so if his expertise building the keyboard carries over into building the rest of the device, we might be looking at something really special here. That, coupled with the team's general affection for the phones that I love, the Nokia N900, the T-Mobile Sidekick, things like that, really give me hope that this could shape up to be something special. Either way, we won't have too long to wait. This device is set to ship sometime this summer, and it'll only cost you about $649 when it does, so stay tuned for more impressions of this device and of everything else here, Mobile World Congress 2019.